Hey there, my name's Chris Ryan. I'm a voice actor, done a lot of work with Funimation. I do radio promo work. I'm the voice of HBO in India. I'm the voice of the SB Nation Sports Network here in the U.S.
Prepare to qualify.
You have entered the Fandom Effect, a podcast filled with anime, video games, comics, MMA, and unlimited ideas. Each week, a new guest will press enter and discuss how they're making their dreams come true. With your host, Mark the Bushido Geek Halberg. It's time to enter the Fandom Effect. Now, please insert 25 cents to continue. You have one playthrough. Better make it count.
Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Fandom Effect. Really cool episode for you guys this week. I am joined today by voice actor Chris Ryan, or the modern-day manly man, as he's known. And Chris, I got to say, I'm a pretty big fan of that tagline. How did you come up with the modern-day manly man?
Several years ago when I was getting into doing voice acting, I was talking with this guy, and he's like, well, you gotta brand yourself. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, you have to have something that tells people what you do and what you're about. And so I brainstormed it for a while, and I thought, I have this pretty big voice, which is, can be considered manly. A lot of voiceover work asks for the guy next door, and I'm not the guy next door. I don't sound like the guy next door. So I thought it's manly, but there's something more to it. It's not just hit you over the head with it. It's not just NASCAR and big trucks. There's something underneath it. I can change a diaper. I can be sensitive. So I thought the modern day manly man, it would be like somebody in the year 2020 manly man. So that's where it came from.
I like that. It's a good way of putting it. For everyone listening right now, you'll probably recognize at some point, you're probably listening saying like, that voice sounds very familiar. And it's probably because Chris has been all over the world with his voice. So he's done a lot of work, like we mentioned before, with Funimation, doing stuff with Assassination Classroom, One Piece, currently No Guns Life. And then, as mentioned, a lot of stuff with HBO India, Evan Williams Bourbon, American Heart Association, Super 8 Hotels. It's a pretty long list, and it's super impressive. And I got to say, I was playing a couple of your clips on your website, and it's crazy because it's, like you said, it's the modern day manly man, that voice. It's really iconic. Was getting into voice acting something that you saw in your future, like having a voice like that, or kind of how did that come to be for you?
Well, actually, I was in radio for 20 years. And I'll tell you the story about how I got into radio, which is an interesting one. And then I'll tell you how I transitioned from radio into just voice acting. I was probably about 18, and I just graduated high school, and I was working at a Dairy Queen. Yeah, so I'm working at Dairy Queen. I'm not really going anywhere. I think I'm doing community college, and I'm really great at school. And one day, this guy comes in the Dairy Queen, and I could tell that he was from out of town. In fact, he had Minnesota license plates, and this is in small town Texas. And I was like, oh, man, what's this guy doing in Gilmer, Texas, which is my hometown? And he came in and he ordered a couple of hot dogs or something. I'm going to make the hot dogs. And I could tell he was staring at me, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was thinking, being 18, I was like, I think this guy wants to fight. So I made the hot dogs and I give them to him, and he's still kind of staring at me in this weird way. And he leaves. And then he immediately walks back in. He said, hey, man, you've got a great voice. I work at a radio station up the road. Why don't you come up there and we'll put you on the radio? I was like, okay. So he left, and I didn't get his name. So like I said, I had nothing going on. I was going to, community college. I was not doing well there. I was working at Dairy Queen. And so I thought, well, I got to go check it out. I've always loved music. So I make the drive up to this radio station, and it wasn't until I was walking through the doors, I was like, I don't even know this guy's name. So who am I going to ask for? But I walked to the door, and he came around the corner right then. It was like destiny. And he said, hey, Dairy Queen guy. And he gave me a job on the radio. So from there, I parlayed that into 20 years on radio. And that was a lot of fun. But then, radio kind of started to change. The job wasn't as steady A lot of people were being laid off and things like that. And I've got a young family. So I thought, I need something that I have a little more control over. So I slowly started transition into just voice work. I'd done some voice work being in radio, commercials and imaging for stations. So I kind of started there and slowly weaned myself off of radio to have this full-time gig where I just do voice work all day.
That's pretty crazy. Just working in, Dairy Queen, all of a sudden a guy comes in and says, saying the first line, hey, you have a nice voice. Like there's a lot of ways that story could probably go where it doesn't turn out as good.
Yeah. In my mind, this guy had a problem with me. I didn't know what it was, but
a 20-year career that transitions into, like you said, all the voice work voice work you've done now is pretty amazing. Do you have, obviously, like, 20-year in radio is pretty long time. Is there like a key point in your radio career that you had like the most fun for you, or?
I think with any endeavor like that, at the beginning, it's the most fun because there's only one way to go, and that's up, and everything's new. Everything you do is new. Being on stage to introduce a big rock band was amazing, when you're 24 years old. So you have things like that happen that are, really exciting, especially given that age. But like I said, when I got older and I wanted things to be a little more comfortable, and going on stage and introducing a rock band did not sound that exciting because I'd done it so many times. And so, yeah, I mean, in the 90s, which was probably the first 10 years that I was in radio, it was a lot of fun, too much fun sometimes.
I don't know if this was a thing in Texas, but my father used to be a manager of a record store called Harmony House. I don't know how much of a chain that really was, but same kind of thing. He would be able to like meet rock bands who were coming to do like signings and stuff like that. And there's some stories he's told me. He's like, there's some stories I will never tell you, like regardless of how much time goes by.
Yes, I can attest that there are stories that will never be told. Yeah.
That's great though. I mean, it really goes to show, what just can happen if you just take good fortune, for what it is, and kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, like you said, and keep working once you get the opportunity. You could have not drove into that radio station. Probably would have been like, okay, there's no way this is real. That guy is probably just super creepy. I'm just going to go home and just kind of get on with my day.
Right. There's a lot of people that I've encountered that would say, wow, you're lucky you got that great voice, or you wouldn't have what you have today. And to a point, I agree. But there's so much work that has gone on besides just having a great voice, because, there's a lot of people that have voices like mine that just don't think they can or don't have the time to put in the work to make it a career. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of work involved moving my way up in radio and then kind of starting over whenever I started just doing voice work, and I'm still in that beginning stages of that, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's definitely a great lesson for everyone listening out there. But I can say, for just starting out, you're doing pretty good for pretty early. So you mentioned you go from a 20-year career in radio to transitioning to voiceover work. And obviously, like you had mentioned, that gives you a lot of, more control over what you're doing. So how did Funimation come into this? You're getting into doing your own voice work. I got to imagine that's a pretty different process than recording for, HBO India or something like that.
My work for Funimation is like, you nailed it. It's totally different than anything else I had done or I do currently, really. But I'll tell you a funny story about Funimation. Back when I was in radio, this was probably 1999. There was this comedy troupe in Dallas that would come on my radio show every once in a while. And they were super great guys, super hilarious. And one of those guys was Mike McFarland. I don't know if you know him, a voice actor with Funimation, and he's a big deal. Anyway, he was already at Funimation in 99, and he said, man, you should come try out for a part. I didn't know what Funimation was at the time. I didn't know what anime was at the time. I was 28 and just having a blast. But I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. I like cartoons, which I'm sure he did not appreciate. That was probably off on the wrong foot there. So I went to this audition, and it was horrible. I mean, I just did horrible because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know. I didn't do any research, and it was just bad. And they never called me back. And I hope that whatever I recorded that day has been long burned. So that was 1999. It wasn't until 15 years later that I got some auditions when I was transitioning out of radio into strictly voice work that I went in and did some auditions. And so I started getting little Army guy number 38, things like that. And I've just slowly worked my way up. I mean, the people that I look up to at Funimation are true actors. And so that's something I've really had to work hard on, is being more of an actor. And so, it's just slowly coming together, hopefully.
Yeah, I can, definitely attest to some of the things that I've heard your voice in. When you got back into Funimation down the road, were you able to reconnect with Mike and kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I work with Mike a lot, and I've never brought up that story because I'm afraid he'll remember that audition and he'll never call me again.
Or he'll find the tape and be like, "Oh, you mean this one?" And then
yes, right. Oh, yeah. No, I've not brought that up. Now, I'm sure he remembers because we've talked about his comedy troupe coming on the radio show, and we've known each other. I mean, but hopefully he does not remember me coming in for that audition. And that also, for everybody listening, that just goes to show that just because somebody says no one time doesn't mean it's always no. So keep trying. If you're wanting to be a voice actor, you want to do anything. Just because one person or one incident, kind of shuts you off for the time being, keep working it, man. Hopefully it'll come back around, because it did for me. So
that's a really good point. And, kind of just sticking with that train of thought for a quick second, for people that are out there that are listening that do have a passion for potential voice acting, obviously, like you said, don't take a first no for an answer, but are there any, I guess, tricks of the trade if you're trying to get your name out there?
You got to get auditions. You've got to get your name in front of people. You definitely don't want to bother people, because if you start to bother people, by that I mean, constantly calling them or emailing them or DMs through Twitter or whatever, then they're just going to get fed up with you. I mean, these people are busy. They're doing the best they can. And if they think that you're ready, or they think that they need somebody like you, then you just need to let them know that you're there. So that's something I would say. And just keep working and try different things that aren't in your comfort zone. Last year, I did a full year of improv lessons. I'd never done improv, and I had a blast doing it. And I think it helped me tremendously get out of my head when I'm acting, when I'm trying to act in front of the microphone. So, I mean, things like that, I think, will go a long way. And there are other ways to get coaching. There are several websites you can go to where you can do an hour on a Zoom call with a voice acting coach. And I've done a lot of that, years of that. So things like that really help. Just be ready. It's not just about getting somebody's attention. It's about being ready when they do look at you and say, "Here we go. Are you ready?"
Well, I hope everyone listening just took a lot of notes, because you're not going to hear from a more reputable source on helping you out. So definitely make sure you pause that part and replay it a couple times. So you've mentioned kind of in the early aspects of the voice acting in terms of Funimation. You've done a lot of work, as I mentioned previously, in very different things. Your new one though was the first time where you're the lead, No Guns Life. How is that for you, Ben, compared to, what you're doing, like you said, Soldier number 38, transitioning from that to being the character the show is based on?
It's amazing. I mean, when I tried out for that part, the director brought me in and there were a lot of people auditioning for it. And he said, I'm looking for a Clint Eastwood type deal. And I was like, I think I can do that. Because a lot of the anime characters that I've done and continue to do are pretty high energy. And I'm not a high energy guy, as you can tell. And so this was right in my wheelhouse. I was like, yeah, I can do a Clint Eastwood, you want to get tough, things like that. So I did it. I felt good about it, but you never know with these things. I mean, if you're in voice acting, you got to get used to rejection. And I don't mean somebody telling you no. I do 5 to 10 auditions every day, and I just never hear anything back. Even if I think, wow, I nailed that. Who knows who they went with? And you never know until you hear it, on TV or on a radio commercial or whatever it is. But yeah, I got the call back on that, and they said, "You're the guy." So it's been amazing. We did the first season of No Guns Life, and I think we got a pretty good reaction. I thought it looked good. I thought it sounded good. I thought the actors were amazing. I think season 2, we're just kind of waiting for the studio to open back up so we can get in there and start dubbing that.
I started watching No Guns Life. I'm about halfway through right now, and as a pretty avid anime watcher, it's really good. First off, but it's like a nice change of pace. A lot of newer ones, My Hero and stuff like that. Like you said, very high pace, very high energy, and this gives me a feeling of the coolness factor of like Spike from Cowboy Bebop with like the atmosphere of what Big O had.
Right. And it's definitely like, it also has like a film noir type vibe to it, with the music and the lots of cigarette smoking and things of that nature.
Yeah, it is really good though. I highly encourage everyone listening right now to check out No Guns Life. It's very good. 12 episodes for the first season. Definitely make sure you guys check that out. You've said you've done a lot of different work. What's like a big difference between if you're, like you said, working for Funimation or if you're doing the voice work for HBO India or something like that?
Well, HBO India is mainly a promo deal that I do for them. So if you watch any TV, you hear promo voices that come on that say Sunday night at 7 on HBO, things like that. So it's a lot of that. And it's not a lot of acting. It's more of a vibe. It's more of this is a comedy. So this is Saturday night at 7 on HBO, or this is more of a suspense, Saturday night at 7 on HBO, so it's more that than it is acting or, with Funimation, it's all acting and it's not thinking about how your voice sounds.
When you're doing, like, is there, like, when you're working on that side of the promo side, is there, like, do you find yourself enjoying the promo side more, or since you're putting, like you said, you're putting all this work into improving acting and improv, or do you really enjoy like the Funimation aspect?
I enjoy Funimation more because it's more challenging. There's more reward to it. But I'm better, but just because of my history in radio at the promo side of it. So I feel more comfortable doing that. If I get any promo work or even just commercial work, I've done it so much that I'm comfortable with it. Not that I'm not growing. I kind of know where it's at. With Funimation, there are times where, the director has to say, here's where we're at in this story. And here's what I think I need from you. And, it's like more of a collaborative deal. When I do my work for HBO or any of my radio stations, very seldom do they hear what I'm doing until I send it to them. And if there's a problem, they'll just send it back and say, hey, this needs to be darker, or this needs to be lighter. With Funimation, it's much more nuanced.
I'm curious because you had said when you had first met, Mike, you had said you were kind of thinking like, well, I like cartoons, why not, why not give it a shot? Have you found yourself getting more into watching anime now since you're doing a lot of work for it? Or do you try to stay away from it?
I watch as much as I can. I have 3 little kids and I have work. The time I get to do that kind of stuff is limited. But when I do, like if my wife's traveling, the kids are in bed, I'll definitely hop on the Funimation app and check out shows and see what's going on, especially because when I'm doing a show, I only see the scenes I'm in. So it really helps if I kind of know some history of other characters that my character may run across in the future. So I watch as much as I can when I can. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. So there's kind of 2 questions I want to go into, but you brought up, you only see the scenes that you're in, which is interesting. I feel, probably a lot of people listening don't know how that process goes in terms of, what you see, what you know. So is that generally how it goes? Like they'll kind of give you a script and say, hey, these are your lines. And then, or do they give you like an idea of like the scene work or anything like that?
Yeah. There's a director and there's usually an engineer who does all the recording and sets up the mic and everything. And when I come in, the director will say, here's where we're at in the story. Your character is doing this. They've done this. And this other thing is going on over here. And now these things are going to come together. And that's where we are in this scene. And then I'll get to see the Japanese version of what we're going to do. And then I'll get to read my lines. And then they put it in there. And if it looks good and sounds good, then we move forward.
Very nice. So you said you try to watch as much as you can. Do you tend to go for subbed or dubbed?
I like dubbed.
Which would make sense.
Yes, because I like to hear what my fellow voice actors are doing, how they're doing it. I can learn from like, oh man, I didn't know I could do that. So I can't wait till next time I go in. I'm going to do some more of that. That's awesome.
Keep the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. I mean, you're just constantly learning.
I think that's a really good point. Like you've said a few times, to keep that the passion and the drive, just because you got your foot in the door doesn't mean that it's going to always stay there. You have to keep working to improve and keep, like, like you said, why, like they said, okay, now's your time, here you go. Okay, well, you got to, take the ball and run with it, so to speak, for lack of a better analogy. I'm interested because you're mentioning like you watch a lot of Funimation. So when you said you work with a lot of these people, you can be careful in how you word it, but is there like a top, like, 3, top 5, however you'd want to say it, of things that you've watched that you found very like really good animes? Or have you ever been like told like by someone in Funimation that you're working with, like, hey, I was just in this anime, you should go check it out?
Well, I'm going to be super honest with you. Most of the anime I watch is stuff that I'm in. And it's not because I'm that self-centered or anything, but like I said, if I get the time to watch something, I want to watch something that I need to watch because I need to know what's going on in the story and see what other people are doing and how they're doing it. So, Assassination Classroom was a show that I had a lot of work in, which I think is. Have you watched that?
I've started it, yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, it's got the story's interesting. It has a lot of feels to it. A lot of it's hilarious, and a lot of it, you kind of choked up a little bit at times. So, Assassination Classroom was one of my favorites to be a part of and to watch. I'm in a lot of One Piece now, which they're going to be, I think, releasing some stuff fairly soon. That's going to be pretty awesome. So I've been watching a lot of that, and there is a lot to watch.
Yeah, yes, there is.
Yes, there is a lot to watch.
It's at nine somewhere in the 900s.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm a pretty big One Piece guy. I'm through the first 800 or so. So I've heard your work in One Piece.
Yeah, and that's a totally different vibe from No Guns. I mean, when I get told, "Hey, you're coming in to work on One Piece," I have to get my head right with. There's going to be a lot of yelling and running. So,
well, it's interesting. You say like a lot of running. Like, it's interesting because the thought of voice acting, like, okay, I got to voice act that I'm running, is, I don't know, like, it's very interesting how to do that.
Yeah, I move my arms and breathe heavy and watch the screen and try to follow whatever the character is doing. It can be tiring.
Yeah, because you're more or less, I guess, just running in place for a long period of time to, I guess, get the lines out. So it's very interesting that you, like you said, I mean, that does make sense to watch what you're in to see kind of what's coming up. And like you said, since you only get some things that you're in, you're now able to kind of like, see the whole picture and the whole production of everything that goes into it, which is very interesting. More of like, I guess, off script, so to speak, question in terms of more just like a curious question. So you said you feel like kind of you're in the intimacy of the voice acting career. Is there, now that you've kind of been watching anime, something that you would love to be a part of? Like if you had an idea in your head of, if there was an anime like I'd want to do it.
I've talked to the director of No Guns Life, Kyle Phillips, about this. And I said, man, if there was a Western anime, I would want to be a part of that. And he agreed that there needs to be, like an Old West anime. I'm sure it would be anime. So it'd be a little different than what, it wouldn't be just a Clint Eastwood movie, but something like that. I did something a few years ago, and I can't remember the name of the show offhand. Let me see if I could find it. Heroic Legend of Arslan. I don't know if you know that one, but it was...
that one I'm not super familiar with.
Yeah, it was set, I think, had a medieval times vibe to it, not the restaurant, but in the times of medieval. And I played this character, Kubard, who I really enjoyed just because he was a manly man. I mean, constantly giving people crap. And so those types of characters, those types of shows, I think I'm more attracted to than, the real high energy things. It's more comfortable for me to play those types of characters, as I'm sure it's for any actor to play something they're really familiar with.
Which does make sense. You're the stuff that you're naturally going to be just proficient at is going to be, like you said, it's going to be easier than something that you're going to need to do more of an improv. Like you said, going more high energy when it's One Piece, or I'm sure the work you did in Fairy Tail was probably along the same lines of high energy and way different. Obviously, Assassination Classroom, No Guns Life, not as high energy as some of the other characters you've been a part of. So you've done so many different things in terms of like, voiceover work for whether it's a company or a brand, and obviously a lot of work in anime, which of course has its own legions of followers. have you ever found like when you're talking to someone casually, has anyone ever just like picked up on your voice alone?
Well, I mean, people say stuff like you should be on the radio or something like that. I mean, nobody's picked me out as a specific character from an anime show or anything like that. No, that hasn't happened. Not yet. No.
Okay. So I know obviously with stuff going on right now, it's not really a thing, but have you ever looked into going to into like the convention scene or anything like that?
I would love to. Yeah, that's something I'm very into. If the opportunity arose, in fact, Funimation is doing a con 4th of July weekend, I believe. In fact, I know they are doing one. I don't have all the details, but I'll be a part of that as part of a One Piece panel. So that's going to be a wave that we can still reach the fans, and they can reach out and touch us.
Well, very cool. Well, there,
Yeah.
for everyone listening, make sure you jot it down. July 4th weekend. I know I'll be tuning in to watch myself because that sounds pretty interesting. Like it'd be very fun to do. Hopefully, like when things, I guess, whatever turn back to whatever normal is going to be, that you do get a chance to do that. Because having gone to a lot myself, it's pretty fun when you get to, from the fan side, sad point of it, when you're able to go to these things and meet people who have done work like that. It ends up being like a pretty special memory and a generally like an overall very fun experience. So definitely I know you haven't done it yet, but I'll thank you for wanting to do things like that.
Yeah, I know.
Because like I said, from a fan standpoint, and now, like I said, with the younger son who's getting into his own things, it's definitely always very nice to hear the people who are, who go into these things that you're watching and you become such a huge fan of, have that, passion and have that drive for wanting to, for lack of a better term, you're giving back, you're taking time out of your day to, give back to other people, which is always a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree. This Funimation Con is Funimation Con 2020. If you go to Funimation.com, you'll see it. It's free. So July 3rd and 4th.
There you go. You can't really do any better than free. So, so I know you had said earlier that season 2 of No Gun's Life is kind of on hold until the studio opens back up. Do you have any other like projects or promo work coming up that fans of yours might be able to listen in and hear you in?
I can't think of anything. Nothing other than, my promo work with radio stations and HBO India and some commercials here and there. But nothing that I can say, yeah, you got to go hear this. I can't wait for the Funimation studio to open back up. Hopefully it'll be a daily deal where we'll need to go in and do some work because I miss it.
Yeah. I would imagine that going from recording like a full season of something to not being able to record anything at all is probably a pretty drastic change.
Right. Yeah.
How long on average, when you do go to the studio, whether it's, for when it's Assassination Classroom or One Piece or No Gun's Life, roles where you're going in and you're going to be doing a lot of talking, what's like an average kind of length of time that it takes for you to record, like, let's just say that episode?
Well, with No Gun's Life, my character, Jizo, does not have a mouth since his head is a gun. So there are no flaps that we have to match, which is the mouth moving. So that show doesn't take as long as something like Assassination Classroom or One Piece does, where we have to match the flaps of the mouth as close as we can. So that can take some time for trying to fit something in or maybe having to write something a little different to make it work. With No Gun's Life, there's no flaps. So I can do whatever I want pretty much. So it doesn't take us long. So 2 to 3 hours for an episode for No Gun's Life is probably enough time to do an episode. Yep.
That's pretty interesting. I didn't even make that connection in my own head from even having watched it, that because he doesn't have like a mouth and has a gun for a head, that it would be different than having to match lips, which is that's a very interesting point. And I know you've gone over, you've mentioned a few times, what happens when you get to see the kind of the Japanese side of it. So when you're trying to match, more hard because like you said, you try to get as close as you can. So like, do you try to like study mouth movements, or like, I'm guessing there's got to be a lot of work that goes into watching someone's mouth just move for a long period of time?
Well, yeah. Usually when the script's written into English, the translator will watch the Japanese and they know how to put the right syllables in the right places. So usually it's pretty easy from my point of view, my side of things. But yeah, there are times when I'm wanting to do something that I can't do just because it doesn't work with what I'm given on the screen. So we have to, mold it to make it work, or try it a few different ways to see what works the best. So that can just be a bit time consuming. The folks at Funimation, I mean, the prep that goes into it before I even walk in the studio is amazing. So it makes my job easy.
Yeah, you can't complain about that when when you know your job's going to be a little bit easier going into it. Now, you've being in Funimation and being in radio, you've worked with so many different people from all over the spectrum. So I'm not trying to get you to choose anyone in particular, but who's your favorite? No.
Christopher Sabat is my favorite.
Well, all right, well, there you go. So I'm sorry for everyone else.
Sorry for everyone else. Chris, first of all, he's great. And second of all, when I was first getting started, he answered any questions I had to help me out, which he didn't have to do that, but he went out of his way. He's continued to send work my way. Him and I have a kind of a similar voice. There was a studio in town that needed some work done. He wasn't available, and he sent it to me. So, I mean, he's just a really good guy. So that's why I would say Chris.
All right. From a fan side, obviously I don't have a personal relationship with him as you do, but I have met him a few times at conventions. Yu Yu Hakusho is one of my all-time favorite animes, and I was able to meet him. And just from meeting him at conventions and stuff like that, so I can attest that he, always, like I said, was very nice. I remember, I don't remember, I was Motor City Comic Con. It's a convention in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are looking into going to conventions, Chris, that's a really good one. Motor City Comic Con, they're pretty heavy in voice actors. They have a whole row that's usually dedicated to voice act. And it was that convention was end of the day. I had gotten called away. I had some family stuff. So I was not in the greatest mood, and caught him as his booth was closed. So I was you get disheartened. I was oh man, that sucks. And started walking away, and he had came out of the back, and he was oh, sorry, did you miss me? And I was yeah, but it's all right. I'm sure I'll catch you at a future convention or something. And he was no, what do you got? What do you want me to sign for you?
And he did it?
So he took time out of his day and signed a couple posters that I had for Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho, and then he just talked to me for a couple minutes, and then that was it. But it was taking the time out of, he could have just left. There was no need to stop and sign anything or talk to me or anything like that. So
yeah, he's a genuine good guy. So
this is more of I know you'd mentioned you'd like to be in a Western, but is there any current longer running anime that you'd like to get your foot in?
My Hero would probably be, I would love to be on that show. So if Colleen's listening, I'm available.
I think definitely with the kind of range you got, there's got to be some superpower you can work in there. So a quirk we could work in there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some really small things for him, but yeah, that's a great show. So I would like to be a part of that.
Oh yeah, it is very good. So I'm gonna ask you a random question based on that. So you get they give you a part in My Hero, but they tell you you have to come up with your own quirk.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
I don't know, some sort of tick maybe. Yeah, it might be some sort of mouth tick or something like that. It probably would. I mean, a lot of it would have to depend on what the character's like. Hopefully, he's a bad guy.
It'd be a very interesting combination of giving you possibly a bad guy that maybe has a quirk where everything turns into guns. Let's just connect the dots.
I would be very comfortable with that. Yes.
But no, that's awesome. So I don't know if Colleen, I'm guessing if she the director of My Hero.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if somehow she finds this. That'd be pretty amazing. But I'll do what I can. With try to push that in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. So we're getting closer to the end here. So I hope everyone so far has enjoyed this as much as I have, the stories, and have been hearing a lot of things. So I kind of want to just have the listeners out there, who are curious about maybe just, are fans of you. And we've talked a little bit about some, stuff that you've done previously and, and the work that you've done. So this is more just kind of I guess if you had a message for people out there. So I'm sure there's people out there that are collecting the manga for No Guns and are, going to be buying the, DVDs of stuff when it comes out. So for everyone that's kind of listening out there, what would you kind of say to anime fans out there that are currently fans of yours?
Man, first of all, thank you. It means the world to me that somebody enjoys any work that I do. I mean, that's amazing. So I just much appreciated. If it wasn't for fans, I wouldn't have a job. If nobody enjoyed it, we wouldn't be doing this. So keep enjoying it, keep watching, and if anybody has any questions, my website is chrisryanvoice.com. My email's on there. Feel free to shoot me an email. Let me know what you need.
Yes, and for everyone listening, when the episode does air, of course, all links will be posted. That anything Chris is involved in will, of course, be posted. So you guys can definitely reach out and shoot messages, or if there's something you guys are curious about or wondering or something like that, we'll definitely make sure to keep pushing in the right direction. So one thing I am curious about. I know on your website it says you've done some work for Evan Williams Bourbon.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that came with free bourbon.
No,
I'm going to hope.
That's what my dad asked, but no, it didn't. But
See, I was asking for mine too,
Yeah.
so that's why I was curious about that. But
no free bourbon.
I don't know if you're a bourbon guy, but that is a very good bourbon.
Yeah.
Evan Williams is very good.
Yeah, that was a good gig. I enjoyed. And again, that was one of those, it was right in my wheelhouse. I mean, I know bourbon, I know that vibe. So it was easy for me to do that gig.
This is more just like, I know you mentioned previously, but you have a family, obviously, and probably growing up, they're going to be, is it going to be interesting for you to, when they grow up, to start seeing the things that you've been a part of, or do you plan on just showing it to them, or or depending on the show?
Yeah, it depends on the show, but there are times when we're watching TV and something that I've done, like a commercial will come on and I'll be like, hey, you know who that is? And they're like, you? Yeah. And I kind of wait for a reaction. They don't care. I think they think that everybody's mom and dad is on TV and the radio. So unimpressed. There was something I did for, it was in movie theaters before the movie would come on. It was a video game you could play on your phone. I did some voice work for that, and we would always go to the theaters and hear it. And I mean, they won't even acknowledge it. They don't even. They are not impressed.
Oh man. Well, I'll hype you up for during the rest of this. I'll just really overhype everything for you so you can come off this and go back to your family. Be like, all right, I'm feeling good now. So now you guys don't acknowledge everything I'm doing. What'll be? I'll take the blow less hard. But that's interesting. So for my future son, if you're somehow listening to this, yeah, sorry, your dad is not a voice actor in any way. Apologies on that.
Now, if I could rap, I think that my oldest son would think I'm pretty awesome, but I cannot rap, and that's what he's into, or Minecraft.
Yeah. Minecraft's pretty big. That, and I know a lot of my wife's nieces play like Fortnite and
we keep getting asked about that. We're not into that quite yet, but yeah, that'll be soon.
Well, it's free to download, so you don't have to worry too much on one side of it. Are you a gamer yourself at all, or?
The last gaming console I owned was an Atari.
A little throwback.
I play, I'll play Mario Kart with the kids, but they beat me, so
I know that pain.
I'm easy target.
And that's what they're waiting for, is just like, yeah, well, he's on TV, but I can at least blue shell him in Mario Kart, and I'll be happy enough with that. But no, like I did said, I definitely appreciate you did take time out of your day to do this. And yeah, I mean, I've been eye-opening for me, just from the standpoint of, I've been a fan of different things periodically. And like for everyone that listens to the Fandom Effect, you guys know I always try to give back every episode in some way. And of course, it's not going to be me giving back. It's going to be the guest, obviously, in this case, Chris, giving back in terms of, not just tips or, advice or things like that, but the life story and good base ideas and good, like you said, if someone's going to give you the ball to run with it, actually making sure that you do something with it and being proactive, and, the life lessons that go with that are, in my opinion, are very profound and very impactful. And so for my own sake, I'm sure other listeners will thank you as well, but I wanted to say thank you for imparting those kind of, lessons and things like that, because those things are, meaningful, and it does make an impact on people.
Yeah. No, I thank you, Mark, for having the forum that, both of us can to hopefully help out some people, give them some ideas, some focus, some inspiration.
Oh yeah. And, that's generally what everything is going to be about, at the end of the day, is giving, having fun with it. And of course, this was very fun for me to do. And so, before I, probably ask you some random questions at the end here, I want to make sure I give everyone, yeah, as always, when you guys get close to the end, you guys know I give you a fandom experience, and it's just something in general for you guys to either listen to or something to check out, or a tool or something that can help you learn something. In previous episodes, we've talked about Udemy, which is a really good education website course for teaching yourself different skills. So keeping kind of in the theme of this week, I just wanted to make sure you guys went out there and got a Funimation account or Crunchyroll or something, support not only the industry, but, the animes and all the work, as you've heard in this episode, the amount of work that goes into the productions is pretty staggering. And so I just wanted to make sure I mention those. Of course, I will post links that you guys can go ahead and get accounts for those. Funimation is actually very cheap. It's only like $5.99 a month. And of course, as Chris had mentioned, the July 3rd and 4th, the Funimation Con that's going to be on, that he's going to be a part of, the One Piece panel. So is that, just out of if curiosity for people that are listening that plan on tuning in, you mentioned, it's going to be a way to reach fans in today's day and age with everything going on. Is it going to be something where like a Q&A is possible, or is there going to be like a moderator asking you guys questions?
You know what? I don't know. Since it's free for everybody, I don't know how they're going to do the Q&A. I think it is some sort of Q&A session. I just don't know how the questions are going to be submitted. I do know that if you're wanting stuff signed, there's a way to do that too. So I can send you that stuff, Mark, and you can post it on the website.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I mean, I need somewhere to send you my stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Not just, I mean, I'm sure I'll pass it along to everyone, of course, but, we'll have my own stuff,
Do it. Do it.
But no, I wanted to make sure that I, try to, make sure we'll give everyone as much information as we can on that. So of course, as always, everyone, that the episode will be posted to everywhere that a podcast is available: Apple, Google Play, iHeart, Spotify, Pandora. I mean, really, if you guys can name a platform that's hosting podcasting, the Fandom Effect is on it. So once again, want to thank Chris for taking the time out of his day, especially with, a younger family. And like you said, how much work you do every day. I want to make sure everyone appreciates that. So I know you mentioned your website. I want to mention this again for everyone, chrisryanvoice.com. Is there anywhere else that people can potentially contact you or follow any work that you're doing?
I'm on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
At Chris Ryan Voice. Yeah.
Chris Ryan Voice. Okay. Perfect. So I will make sure those links are posted as well. So you guys will have multiple platforms. You can go ahead and contact Chris if you need to, or with any questions. I mean, like he said before, with not bugging people, I'm hoping, don't abuse the system that the person's very nicely giving you guys. I know you won't, but of course, just make sure that if you do keep questions, don't spam a question every day, especially if Chris does take the time to respond. Be very respectful of, the time it takes out of, that he's taking out of his day to respond to everything. But of course, you guys know everything will be posted. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and you will continue to enjoy things. As always, you guys know every new episode will come out on Friday. Make sure you keep following everything that the Fandom Effect is doing on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Fandom Effect. And of course, we got a lot of cool things in the works. But this was one of my favorite episodes to record so far, like just from a geeking out fan standpoint. I've tried to keep it very contained, but
you've done good.
But there's some moments you're just like, okay, just take a deep breath, calm down. Like, but it's just because, like I said, for everyone who's listening right now, as we're wrapping up, I just want to make sure I stress like how down to earth Chris really is in terms of a person. So, when the world opens back up and Chris does go to conventions, trust me, from speaking to him right now, take the time out of your day to go speak with him, pay for signatures, pay for stuff. And of course, right now, make sure you guys go out there. And when the No Guns Life stuff comes out on like DVD and Blu-ray, as a lot of animes are doing now, make sure you guys support the work that everyone goes into producing a product like that and go ahead and purchase it. I know I will be doing that myself once I finish binge watching it in one night, staying up way too late, as all of us anime fans tend to do. But make sure, like you said, support the work that goes into it. So I definitely want to make sure you guys do that. But I will see you guys next week on Friday for the very next edition of the Fandom Effect. Have a good day, everybody.
Well, not bad for one playthrough. You have multiple achievements left to unlock. Please follow the Fandom Effect podcast on all available platforms and unlock the next level. If that doesn't work, just turn it on and off.